successful. I love seeing people be successful. I love helping other women because a lot of times we don't have the support in our careers that we should have.
You're listening to the Academy podcast, the podcast for people who can but don't know how. This is where you get actionable steps to turn vague dreams into blissful realities. And I'm your host, Omoshola Victoria Wolabi. So let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the I Can Do podcast. Thank you so much for listening every single week, for tuning in, for engaging with me on social media. I really do appreciate it, and I do not take it for granted at all. So I just want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for always listening. And today's episode is one that is near and dear to my heart because over the last 10 years, I have worked in the corporate industry before I decided to go into entrepreneurship. I've always been a side hustler, however, but I always considered it a side hustle, not like an actual full-fledged business. And during my years in the corporate world, one thing that always stood out to me was I saw a lot of brilliant women, a lot of women in the workplace who always diminished their shine. They always played it safe, kept the low profile. They didn't want to step on anybody's toes. So they just kept it business as usual, right? But I saw that these women, so for example, you would see, I had an amazing boss in one of the jobs that I held with a very good company. And I noticed that her peers, like another manager who was on the same level as her, who was a man, would always, be the one to go up to the management meetings and, go play golf with the bosses while she just, kind of played it safe. And this is why I felt, this is something that we need to address as women, especially in the workplace. There's a reason why you have been put at that seat where you sit in that position that you hold. You have to learn to own your brilliance and communicate your value in a way that lets people understand the power that you have inside of you. And there's no other person than my amazing guest today to come on and actually discuss this very important subject with us. Now, on today's episode, we have Jackie Mitchell. Jackie is the founder of Jackie Mitchell Consulting, LCC. She is a certified career coach, and she helps ambitious, high-achieving women who feel stuck or frustrated advance their careers. She's also the host of the Bench Talk podcast, where you get to hear the most motivating stories and strategies for successful careers. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Jackie.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, Jackie, I just read this little mini bio about you, but I know there is more substance and beauty to you. So, can you tell us in your own words, who is Jackie Mitchell?
Jackie Mitchell. Oh, I dread when people ask me. No, Jackie Mitchell, I am every woman, I like to say, and I don't say that bragging or, with so much hubris, right? So I say that because I am a woman who started her career very young. I started my career, I want to say, very early 20s, very, very early 20s when I knew nothing, right? I went to college and right out of college, immediately started into the career that I wanted to go into, So I have always been in the technology field in IT. So I went to school for that and have graduate degrees. My graduate degrees are in computer information systems and management information systems. And so I started my career way, way back when there was not many women and I say way back for me anyway, but even my mom.
You make it sound like donkey years
I know, and it's not. So but in the tech field, it was so many, donkey years ago, right?
Absolutely.
Because things happen so quickly, things move so fast, right?
That's true.
I will be dating myself if I told you that we didn't have computers like we have today. You know what I'm saying? This is early 90s. Like seriously, early 90s, right? So Jackie Mitchell by trade is an IT professional. I am a program/project manager for Fortune 500 companies. And I've worked as a full-time employee, meaning, what they consider an established employee. And I have worked as a consultant or contractor. And I am also now an entrepreneur, but I still consider myself a career woman, right? I'm an entrepreneur who has taken all of the years of experience that I've gathered and mentorship that I've gathered to help women, especially young women, to help them navigate their careers and help them to get to where they want to go and achieve what they want to achieve. So I am a career coach, a certified career coach, and life coach as well. The two, they do go hand in hand. So I am both. So I do that. And I also, as you said, I also host a podcast. And we can get into that a little bit later. But yes, so that is me in a nutshell, very quickly.
Absolutely. And that's so beautiful. And you are a career coach and you
Hmm.
help ambitious women
Hmm.
who feel stuck or
Yes.
frustrated advance their careers. That was exactly me a few years ago. And it was out of my frustration with my corporate job. That
Hmm.
was why I kind of pivoted into entrepreneurship. This was
Wow.
really born out of my feeling stuck.
Hmm.
How how did your idea for what made you decide these were the kind of women you wanted to help? I guess that's my question.
I wanted to help women that were like me, right? Because it's funny, my thought process is, and it's interesting when I coach women, I tell them when we talk about fear and things like that and doing, I tell them to be the adult that their child needed, if that makes sense. So for
Right.
me, the women that I coach are typically women who were like me, and I try to be for them the person that I needed for me at that age. And not necessarily at that age, but at that stage in my career.
Right.
Right. So I see women, I'm still doing project management and program management. That is still a passion of mine. That is really what I love to do. I love to do that. And I love coaching. I love coaching. In what I do, I marry the two all the time because I lead teams and
Mhm.
I don't manage teams. Typically, I'm coaching my teams through getting projects done and programs done, right? So it's really interesting. When I got to a certain point in my career, I started mentoring the junior project managers or junior analysts. And they were typically women. And I noticed because of my personality, I have a very strong personality.
I could
and
tell.
very, and you have to be a certain way when you're working in a male dominated environment, right? And
Yes.
in order to be taken seriously, you still have to have your feminine touches about you, but there are masculine traits that have to come out as well, right? It is unfortunate, but it's the reality, right? So
Absolutely.
I watched what they did and mimicked successful people and people who commanded respect and how they got it. And I had mentors. A lot of them were men. A lot of them were men, right? A
Right.
lot of them didn't even realize they were my mentors. Believe it or not, there's a way to do that too. But yeah, I noticed that a lot of women would come to me and ask, well, how did you do that? And how did you do this? And just in my day to day, I was coaching women. I was coaching them how to run meetings, how to facilitate meetings, how to talk to an executive, how to get things done through other people that don't directly report to you. And I loved doing that. And I loved answering questions and guiding people and seeing them be successful because there are a lot of things that I did that I stumbled through, and
Mhm.
had to learn the hard way. And for me, if I can show someone and give someone tips and, hacks or whatever on how to navigate their way through this world, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just your career, just in living, and it doesn't have to be a male dominated situation either, but just to navigate your way through to be successful. I love seeing people be successful. I love helping other women because a lot of times we don't have the support in our careers that we should have. So that's a passion of mine.
And it shines through. It absolutely shines through in your voice, in everything that you do. You mentioned there's a difference between coaching a team and managing a team.
Oh, yes.
Can you please expand on that a little bit? Because I didn't know there was a difference between the two, by the way. So can you please expand?
Yeah.
What is that difference?
I
For people who are listening who are managers, right?
mhm.
Yeah. Can you
Okay.
please shed more light on that?
Okay, so this is not necessarily a scientific definition, but it's in what I see works and what doesn't. So typically when you're managing, you may be delegating, you're giving directions. People will come to you with problems
Right.
and not solutions. When you're coaching people, you are empowering them to develop solutions. They typically already have the solution and they're looking for validation from you. So if you
Right.
create a space, a very welcoming and safe space for people to come to you with their concerns and their opinions and their suggestions, you'll notice that, if you ask the right question, let me take a step back. I lead with questions, right? I
Right.
never give the answer. And I even do that and have done that with my kids. And it's really interesting. And I heard this a very long time ago. And I think I read a book on that, Leading with Questions, a long time ago. But I'll ask questions. And for me, this comes from my analyst days, my business analyst days, where you have to ask questions and elicit these responses from people. A lot of times they don't know what they're looking for. So I'm
Right.
asking questions. I'm really good with asking questions where it doesn't come off as rhetorical, but it gets you to think. Right.
Right.
And so I like to empower my teams to think. For number one, I don't proclaim to know everything, right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't proclaim to know everything in IT and in every project that I'm on. So I know that the teams that I put together, that I help build, these are people that are very strong in what they do. And they are unfortunately conditioned to seeking out approval or validation. Is this right? Should I do it? They've never really been empowered. So I see that a lot with managers, that a lot of managers unfortunately rule by fear,
Mm-hmm.
and just the terminology rule right there tells you something, right?
Yeah.
So the difference with coaching and managing, coaching empowers people,
Right.
managing directs people. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, because most managers are hired to manage people, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And most
Which is
times,
incorrect.
exactly, most times their actions, because, in my job, for example,
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, I had a manager who would say, if you don't maybe meet your target, you will be out of a job, you will lose your job. And it was
Wow.
more like what you're saying, fear-based management
Yes.
and micromanaging every minute. How
Yes.
much have you done at this hour?
Mhm.
But what I also realized when I got to know her, she was actually a nice person. She was just feeding down the pressure from the top, right?
She was
S-
managing from fear,
Yeah,
which
because she
which they
was
typically do. Mhm.
exactly, and she was what I realized was they were also managing her superiors
Right.
based on fear as well. So she was just passing that down,
Right.
right? How does somebody who works in a culture that is fear driven from the top
Mhm.
decide, you know what? Because most times you have to own your own role as a manager. I'm going to
Mhm.
treat my team differently. I'm going to go the coaching approach. Wouldn't that be in conflict with like maybe the organization and how they do things in their culture?
You have to be a disruptor.
I love that. I love it.
I'm all for that. I mean, what I am not with the whole group think and doing what everyone does because for the sake of just doing it, or it's always been done that way.
Right.
How do you stand out? You have to be a disruptor, right? In a
Right.
positive way. So if you have the ability to build a team that will support you. One of the things that I am really strong with, and anyone who has worked with me, and I don't like saying people work for me, people that work with me,
Right.
who have worked with me, they will tell you that I had my team's back. Any project that I go on, one of the first things I say in the very first meetings with the team is that I will have your back. And here is why I will have your back. And here are the expectations. Here are my
Right.
expectations of you. What are your expectations of me? And we level set. right?
Right.
And I try to build or create a space where we're all equal and everyone has an opportunity to speak. Everyone's voice is being heard. It's not a situation where we're pointing fingers, because I know in order for me to be successful, the team has to be successful. In order for the project to be successful, we all have to be successful. So we all have to be rowing in the same direction. And I know that sounds what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my goodness, I just went blank.
It's
Like they
okay.
say it all the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Sounds so
really,
cliche. Yeah.
cliche, but
Yeah.
you really have to build that type of culture for people, especially when you don't directly manage people. You have
Right.
to get work done through them. They may report to someone else, right? And
Yeah.
so it's equally hard. It's harder to get work done. But if you do it the right way, you can get things done. So now, if you're a manager and you have direct reports, and above you is this layer of fear, and the culture is just one in which it just doesn't foster that type of teamwork, you can create your own little microcosm within that culture to disrupt it and lead by example, right?
Hmm.
Because you're going to have wins and everyone's going to ask, oh my goodness, that team is a high performing team. What are they doing? Right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so it's just a repeatable process. And hopefully, with enough, dare I say, marketing of it, and
Hmm.
marketing not going out just talking about it, but showing that it works, it will help. I believe that will help to spread that type of management style, managing by coaching.
Wow, that's awesome. And you did mention something about you found mentors, and that's important. How do you find mentorship? How do you let people mentor you? You said some of them did not even know they were your
They
mentors. How
didn't know.
how did you do that?
I built relationships. I love talking and I love talking to people. And I love more than talking, I love listening and I love connecting.
Right.
I love connecting with people. In my mind, I believe that's what we're here for,
Mhm.
right? So those authentic connections for me are very important, especially in the workplace. So, and it doesn't matter at what level. You can be an executive, you can be a janitor. It doesn't matter. I will have a conversation with you and typically I'll find out that we have something in common.
Right.
I don't think I've ever talked to anyone that we had absolutely nothing in common. There's always something, right?
Yeah.
And if you do your homework, you'll know where to start. So I would do my homework on this was before LinkedIn was really popular. You talk to people and you talk to other people. So you look at your circle of influence or their circle of influence, really, right?
Right.
And who are you most closely connected to that's connected to them or connected to somebody close to them? You start there. You start having conversations there. If you're bold enough, like there were some times I went right directly to the source. Hey,
Mm.
CFO. I'm Jackie. I'm your new program manager. I just want to come and say hi and talk to you about expectations. Want to make sure that you're getting what you need. If there's anything you need from me, please let me know. How do you want to
Wow.
communicate? Things I did that very often, and it was so funny. There was one time in particular, people thought I was crazy. They were like, he doesn't have an open door policy. I said, he does now. He does now. But I made it such that I found out what was important to them. A lot of times, folks who are in the executive suite, C suite, and above, the leadership in C suites, they have a lot of yes people. I'm not a
Mm.
yes person. I'm the person that will tell you the truth no matter what. I
Yeah.
am the person that will say, okay, here's the situation, here's the fact, here are my suggestions with solutions. What do you want to do? But my thing was really listening to them. And again, for me, this goes back to my analyst days where I had to build those types of relationships so that I can get from them what I needed to do my job. So for
Right.
me, it's the same type of thing. I go in there to build the relationship and to, introduce myself and start building that relationship, start building the trust and having small, low hanging fruit type wins just with
Right.
listening and letting them speak. Because a lot of times they're surrounded by yes people who let them speak, but don't really let them convey what it is that they need. Does
Hmm.
that make sense to you?
Absolutely, because it just reminds me of, my days, working for corporations. And as you're talking, I'm just
Hmm.
having like this picture in my mind about
Hmm.
times where I would, maybe a new boss got hired, for
Hmm.
example, and people would just be swarming all around them. She's always yes, 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 your way, anything you say goes. And in my mind, I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
You guys are supposed to be telling these people the truth.
Right.
So I
Right.
was one of those people, the few people who would actually tell them the truth, right?
Right. I think you're
And
more respected that
yeah,
way.
I was, because I remember in
Yeah.
particular, I had this boss then who I saw him speak to a colleague of mine in a way that okay, so he said to her, I don't know what she said, but she was one of his yes people, obviously.
Mhm.
So he said to her when the meeting, and I don't know what she said. And his response, I remember his response. I don't remember what she did, but I remember his response was, I think your weave is too tight. That's why you don't understand what I'm saying. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
who
gosh.
talks to people like this?
Oh my
And
gosh.
that was a confirmation for me. He never spoke to me that way, ever.
Right.
He
Right.
always sought my opinion at meetings. Oh, well, Victoria, what do you think about this? Right?
Mhm.
Because of the
Mhm.
way I carried myself. And
Right.
whenever I went in to talk to him, I was very honest with him. I
Mhm.
was very truthful with him. Like what you're saying, I went to him and I asked him, what are the things I need to do to actually get this job done? And this is what you need to
Yes.
do to help me in my role get the job done.
Exactly.
So I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
Totally. And he was
Yes.
my mentor in the sense that I didn't emulate the good things, but I saw the
Mhm.
things he was doing wrong. And I was like, okay, never ever treat
Never
an
do
employee
that.
like that. Exactly. So
Right.
in
Right.
that sense, he was my mentor, because mentorship is not only from the angle of doing good. You can also
Right.
see what people do wrong and say, okay, I never
And do the
ever.
opposite.
Absolutely.
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 So I totally understand where you're coming from.
A little bit on that as well. When I say I had mentors, again, I worked in a male dominated field and I sought out people who were in really high positions because that, my goal was to get that high at that
Right.
time, right?
Right.
You want to surround yourself with people who are doing what you want to do and not be the smartest person. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room. So I
Never.
would have one-on-ones. I would schedule one-on-ones maybe once a month or whatever, whenever they were available, and just have conversations. And it wouldn't always be about work. Just would build. It's just building that relationship. Hey, I, would love to get your opinion on this or that, or what are you reading now, or just things like
Wow.
that. Just building that professional relationship. And good leaders love to do that. They don't necessarily have a lot of time, but you can find the time if you build the relationship and they trust and respect you. You can typically get that. And like I said, a lot of them didn't know that they were my mentor, but
Hmm.
they have truly helped me in my career.
Right. This is a really helpful tip here for people who are still, in the corporate world. You
Right.
need to learn
Right.
to build relationship with the people high up there for where you're trying to go. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing that helped me as well in my career. Like I always say to my husband, there's never a job that I worked in that I cannot go back to. If I were
Right.
to give them a
Right.
call today to say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm stuck, I need a job back, they'll be
Mm-hmm.
more than happy to have me back. Because
Right.
what I did was I always made sure that I never let the pressures of the work come in between the relationship. Like what you were saying, I'm very like you in a lot of ways because I
Mm-hmm.
like to foster relationships with people, connect
Mm-hmm.
with them on a level that's outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have conversations about, my bosses would tell me things about their personal lives, right?
Right.
When we have our one-on-one sessions. And
Right.
for me, those were things that helped me. It made them relatable. I was able to relate with them on a human level, right?
Human level.
I
Right.
know there was a
Absolutely.
time when we had like cats in at work, and it was, I don't know, it was like this a pet day, something like that, and then the
Mhm.
office organized for cats to come into the workplace, and people could go cuddle them, snug up to them. So my manager walks up to me and she's like, Victoria, aren't you gonna go, cuddle the cat? I'm like, not even if they pay me. I'm never gonna do it. And she burst out laughing, gave me a hug,
Oh
and
my
said,
gosh.
oh my goodness, you're so like me. She's like, we are the same. Things like that. You
Right.
know, I didn't
Right,
have to
right, right.
pretend and say, oh, I love pets. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go,
Yes.
which most of us will do just to
Mhm.
fit in. I
Mhm.
was honest. I said, you know what? Not even if you pay me, I'm not
Right.
gonna do this, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I totally understand, and it works. Having that connection with people
Mhm.
where you're trying to go works.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Jackie, I know this is really interesting, but in your career and in your business now, with what you're
Mhm.
doing with women, what are some of
Mhm.
the challenges you have noticed that keeps women stuck in unproductive careers or just staying at the same level for far too long?
Fear.
Hmm.
We all of us, you, me, we all walk around with fear.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of us can move with the fear, right? Can you ever really not have fear? I don't typically think so at this level, of
Mm-hmm.
consciousness that we are. I don't want to get too esoteric, but fear is typically the thing that keeps us where we are. And I speak to women all the time, whether they're my clients or not. And the common thread, the common theme of being stuck is fear. And it always goes back to fear of losing a job, fear of finances, fear of not having enough,
Mm-hmm.
fear of spouse not, or, partner not understanding, fear of retaliation, some type of fear that keeps you stuck. And it typically is something that we have built up in our minds that is just a lie that keeps us there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fear coupled with comfort, and complacency that
Right.
we feel we're stuck when in all honesty we're not. You can get up and do something else. No, I'm not saying it's easy or simple, but it can be done. It may not happen overnight. It may not happen in a week, a month, 2 months, but it is something that you can work towards doing, so you definitely have to plan that out. If you're in a situation where you have the luxury, and I'm doing air quotes, luxury, to plan what that looks like, definitely plan that out and write out the steps that you need to take, so that every day or week there is an action that you're taking that will move you farther or closer to where you want to be.
Right.
So a lot of times when we're stuck, it is our own doing, and we're stuck in our own minds, thinking and making things way bigger than
Mm.
it is, because our own reality, it's like we have those glasses on, those reality, those
Mm.
glasses that we create our own reality. Our mind has created, let me take that back. Our ego has created this reality that keeps us in our comfort zone and keeps us replaying these stories, of this programming that we have, that some of us just stay there because we don't know better, or we don't really realize there's something else, right? Because we're
Right.
afraid of losing, as opposed to pivoting and shifting our mindset to looking at what we would gain.
Oh
We
my God.
focus on the loss as opposed to the gain. We focus on the absence as opposed to the presence, right?
Right. 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 And it's so true. Fear is, I've written a lot of articles about fear, and it's something that I still deal with every day. It's a
It's
daily struggle
crippling.
for me. Yeah, because, yeah, I was just going to talk about my experience with fear, because you are so right. A lot of times we don't ask for what we need because we're
Mm-hmm.
afraid of rejection,
Yep.
or
Yep.
afraid of, you're right. Your ego is just always in the way. Like, who do you think
Our
you are to
egos
be?
are so big.
Oh
Our
my God.
egos are huge, but our ego is what protects us, or at least is telling us it's protecting us. It's that
Right.
lie. Now, there's a time and a place for everything, right? But
Right.
we have these egos that will replay our past and get you to think about things in such a way that says, see, I told you, you don't want to do that. Remember what happened back then?
Mm.
So I told, don't do that because remember what happened back then? You don't want that feeling again, right? So let
Mm.
me protect you. Stay where you are. You're not going to go and do that thing, you know? So
Mm.
something good comes along and you may start feeling good about it. Here goes that ego. It may not work out, you
Mm.
know? But because we're so used to living and playing, replaying those thoughts in our heads, we get comfortable and lay next to the ego and the fear. And it's like a warm blanket for us because we want to, a lot of times, we want to stay in our comfort
Right.
because change hurts. Change does not feel good. I don't care what anyone says. You know,
It's
change
true.
doesn't feel good. Like growth does not feel good until you get you know what I mean, until you
Yeah.
get there,
Yeah.
unless you change your mindset and you reframe it and start to shrink your ego, then maybe. I know for me, I have fear for quite a few things, but the
Right.
difference with me, and I think I spoke about this, or I don't know if I wrote about it or spoke about it or podcast. I don't remember. I do so many things. I literally take, like, it's a physical thing for me. In order for me to jump, I take the hand of, okay, so for me, my fear, I have humanized my fear to the 13-year-old Jackie, right?
Right.
The 13-year-old girl. I take her hand and I say, okay, let's go. We're going to walk through this. I
Mm.
got you. It's okay. So for me, that's what works.
Right.
I have to create this. I had to make it a little bit more tangible, right? What am I
Mm.
afraid of? Oh, there's nothing to be afraid of. But I go back, for me, the 13-year-old who's afraid of certain things, and that's manifesting in my adulthood. I become the adult for the 13-year-old, and I literally take her hand and I go, right? So I do public speaking. I like to, and I like to talk to crowds. I love talking to people, but I still have a fear. I have a fear of judgment. I
Mm.
have a fear of being judged. That is a huge fear of mine. I have a huge fear of being judged, but I don't let it cripple me. I move through the fear and I go with it. You know, I take it along with me. The
Mm.
fear is there, like this right now. I have a fear of being judged on the show, right? Not by you, but the listeners, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm doing it anyway because there is somebody out there that can hear the message and it resonates with them and they can move on
Mm.
from whatever it is keeping them stuck. So I make it not about me. Again, with ego, we create this huge entire Coney Island of a world
Mm.
in our minds, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
from Brooklyn, so I had to give that reference. But we create this huge thing in our mind that it's all about us, and we are the sun, and the planets revolve around us. And when you really think about it, it's what are your gifts? What are your gifts that you're holding back because of your fear?
Mm.
Somebody else can benefit from them, from whatever it is, whether you're working in corporate, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a mom, it doesn't matter. Someone else can benefit from the things that you're holding back because of your fear. So I
Mm.
literally take Jackie and we go. I'm not going to let her. Now, it may take me some time to build up to it, or sometimes I just close my eyes and I'm like, okay, we're going to do it. Just do it, you know?
Right.
But I typically, because I'm such an action taker, it's
Mm.
not like I'm fearless. By no means am I saying I'm not fearless.
Mm.
I do have fears, but I don't let them stop me. What's the worst that can happen, you know? And I think about that. What's the worst that can happen? So,
Right. Oh my
and I
goodness.
play
Like,
out worst case scenarios, and I'm like, yeah, okay, and then just keep going. I keep going with it.
this is so good. Like, this is so good. And it just, like, I don't know. I'm, I'm short for words right now because I'm just soaking that all up. Because fear is real. Fear is a real feeling. And
It is a real
you are
feeling.
so right when you say that is what keeps a lot of people stuck
Mhm.
from having the right conversations, saying what they want, really. So
Mhm.
in their mind, they want something else.
Mhm.
When they say what they're saying something totally different from what they really
Right.
want. Right. And it
Right.
keeps a lot of us stuck. Like even recently, I had a webinar that I did. And on the day, I was so terrified. I was like, oh my God, what if people don't show up? Or what if they don't
Right.
like my accent or this or
Right.
that? And I'm like, you know what? It's too late to back out now anyway. So we're going to
Mhm.
do it anyway.
Do it
And most
anyway.
times we always think courage is the absence of fear.
No.
No, I realize courage is holding fear by the hand, like you just said, and
Mhm.
doing it anyway.
Doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Yep. And not really caring what anyone says or thinks. Everyone will judge. You may be rejected. You know,
Mm-hmm.
everyone, it doesn't matter. You will always be judged. So
Mm.
why not do it anyway?
Hey everybody, it's Amoshala here with a quick word from our sponsors. You see, when you decide to become an entrepreneur, one thing you do not realize you're signing up for is actually the amount of skills that you need to learn, especially if you're bootstrapping your business and trying to do a lot of things yourself. So things like building a website, social media marketing, photography, those are skills that you need when you are getting started as an entrepreneur. And that was what I was quick to realize when I started my business. But hey, Skillshare came to the rescue. With Skillshare, I was able to go there and take tutorials from people who have been exactly where I was, but are now experts in their field. So whether you're trying to build your website, trying to learn how to market your product on social media, or trying to improve on your communication and facilitation skills, Skillshare has got you. With Skillshare, you're able to learn new skills fast and effectively with step-by-step guided tutorials. And as a lovely listener, Skillshare has been kind enough to allow our listeners 2 months free of premium Skillshare. So to access 2 months free of premium Skillshare, click on the link below in the show notes. And you know what else I learned, Jackie? That the people who judge you have never been in your shoes. They're not doing what you're trying to do or trying to go where you want to go, because the people who have been where you're trying to go will
Mhm.
not judge you. Most times they are more supportive than judging you. That's what
Right.
I've learned. Like most
Right.
people who would judge you are judging you because they don't understand what it is you're trying to do.
Well, they're judging you because they're fearful themselves.
Hmm.
They're at a level,
And they project that fear on you.
they're
That's true.
projecting it on you,
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes if it's family, it's they're trying to protect you from the fear that they feel for you or the fear
Right,
that they have themselves.
right.
Sometimes when I'm onboarding or talking to new clients or potential clients, they'll say, well, I need to talk to my partner or I need to talk to this person before making a decision, which is fine. But I always say, remember, you are the one doing the work. You are the one who knows what you need. Your family and circle are there to protect you. So if they feel that this is something that may, let's say, bring too much vulnerability for you because they know the quote unquote old you,
Hmm.
they're going to try to protect you from doing that thing. They will always try to protect you. And so if that looks like, them pulling you back, don't do it, or no, you don't need that, that's really their issue, not yours. So we're always looking for this external validation for some reason when you really think about it, you really don't need it because you have it all in you anyway.
Hmm.
So this fear, when people who judge you, I truly believe that they're fearful themselves in a
That's
nutshell.
true. That's so true.
We're
Oh my
all walking
gosh,
around
this
with
is
fear.
so good.
Fear is like a disease. Like we're all walking around with fear.
Oh gosh, this is so good, honestly, because we should talk about fear more, because that's exactly what keeps a lot of us stuck.
Fear is
From
what pushes people and fear is what keeps people back. You realize
exactly, it
that.
just depends on how you choose to use it.
How
True,
you
that is
choose
so
to use
true.
it.
Yeah.
The only people walking around on this planet who are not fearful are 2 and 3 year olds. A child. If you
Yeah.
really seriously look at a child. or children playing, before they're tainted with our fears, right?
Right.
They may go get hurt, get up, and go right back to doing the same thing they were doing before.
Oh my God, that's so true.
They could care less. They are all about having fun and living. You want to know who lives their best lives? Children, before they're tainted by us and our fears. Children
Right.
live their best lives. So you see on Instagram, I'm living my best life. No, you're not. No, you're not. Show me the 2-year-old. I'll show you somebody who's living their best life. My nephew right now, I think he's 3, 4 months. He is living his best life.
Absolutely, because we haven't tainted him with
We
our own
haven't
fears.
tainted them with our fears. A quick little story. My son is to go on a marine biology type trip for 5th grade.
Right.
I can't swim, right? I
Okay.
am fearful for him to go. I am terrified because in my mind, I am playing out all the worst case scenarios. So they're going down to the Keys. We live in Florida, going down to Key West, out on a boat, gonna
Hmm.
do snorkeling. All I see is Jaws.
The movie.
The movie. That's all I see. All I see is worst case scenario. And I was talking to another mom, and she was like, "Are you talking like that in front of him?" I said, "Absolutely not." I'll think about that in my head. I'll talk about it to not a lot of people, but just a couple of people. And I'll say, that is my fear. I'm not going to keep him from exploring and living his life because of my fear. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
I try not to do that with my children. Like the oldest went and moved to, went and moved, but he decided to go to Maryland for school. I had
Right.
fears for that, just for other reasons. That's a whole different podcast about, what he looks like, 6'4" or whatever, and being out there in this climate in the United States. I
Right.
have fears, but I didn't put that on him. My daughter went away to school and she has her own car and she's doing her own thing. I have fears, but I'm not putting that on her.
Right.
So I think I'm very mindful and aware. Sometimes I do it and I'll catch myself and I'll even say to them, that's my issue. It's not yours.
Mm.
I try to be enlightened in that way. But I think for the most part, we have all been conditioned, our parents' parents and their parents have trained us and programmed them, which they in turn programmed us, which we in turn program our children because that's how we are taught to raise our children, or we're raising our children, or we're teaching, but we're imparting so much on them non-verbally that I don't think anyone really is living their best life without
Mm.
fear. When
Mm.
I say I really believe children, young children, those are the ones who are living their best lives. Go and watch children one day.
It's so true because when you said that, I remember my 3-year-old, he would do like things like he would jump off, climb on the dining table and jump off, or he'll hold
Mm-hmm.
on to the door and swing himself back and forth. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, this child is going to hurt himself, right?
He could
And
care
I
less.
had to, he doesn't care, he doesn't care what
He
I
could
think.
care
But
less.
for me, it's a conscious effort to make sure that I don't project my fears onto him,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So what I do before, I'll be like, oh, stop it, you're going to hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now I just put cushions around for my peace of mind.
Right.
To
Right.
calm my fears down, right? Because
Right.
he doesn't care.
He could
He's just
care
living his
less.
life. That's so true.
Care less,
Oh God,
you
this is
know?
so good. This is so
Yeah.
good. Oh, okay, Jackie. We've talked about so much today, but I just would like you to please share 5 actionable steps for a woman who is looking to advance her career, for somebody who is looking to move up the ladder in life. It could just be, it might not even be career wise, it could be in
Mm-hmm.
life generally. What
Mm-hmm.
are 5 things you can advise, you can give, from your experience that can help them today to try to at least take the first step toward what they are thinking about or trying to do?
Well, that's good when you say what they're thinking about or trying to do. So let me make sure I give you 5. So number 1, I don't want to lose track. Number 1, I will definitely say don't be tunnel vision. And with that, this is still number 1. Don't be tunnel vision. You can have many things that you want to do, and don't count yourself out before you know what it's really about, right?
Right.
So if you have a thought or an idea, go and talk to someone who is doing that thing. Here's the difference. Someone who is successful doing that thing, right? Because you'll hear the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. And you'll hear the success of it. You don't necessarily want to go to someone who's struggling with it, because you may just only hear the bad and see the bad and not see what's on the other side. Right. So I think if you know someone or can be introduced to someone who has gone through the journey and they're willing to have a conversation with you, I would definitely say reach out to people who are doing different things, the things that you want to do, and just have a conversation about it and see if it really piques your interest, if that's something that you want to pursue based on what you've heard. So that's number one.
Awesome.
Number two, it kind of goes in line with that as well. Now, narrow your focus and seek out different people who are very successful in that area, and get advice from them on how, first of all, find out how they got there and try to do an assessment in your mind. Where are you and where are they? I have to say, you're not comparing their journey to yours. But what you want to do is find out what are the general skills that's needed for that thing. What are the skills that you have? And is there a gap between the two? And how can you close that gap? It may not even cost money to close that gap. You know what I mean? But just look and see how can you close that gap between the two. And in talking with them, you'll find out, because you'll tell them, this is what I have. How can I get there? Right. And so number three is identify where your fears are. So we talked a lot about fear. Right. And none of this is going to come or happen without fear. So identify what your fears are and be really true and vulnerable in this. Get a sheet of paper. And this is something, I didn't make this up. This came from Kyle Cease, Cease.
Right.
He does a exercise that you write down all the things that you want to do in one column, in the left column. The right column, you write down, yeah, but, right? And those are your fears.
Right.
So I want to go back to school. Yeah, but I don't have the money. I want to start a business. Yeah, but I work 40 hours a week at my job. So like those are fears. If you really look at those are fears. Fears of not having enough money, of not having enough time. Like you can categorize what those things are. So really identify what your fears are. So the number three is a combination. You want to identify what your fears are and what's holding you back with those fears. Right?
Right.
On the flip side of that, this could be number four, but still with number three, with fears, on the flip side of that, is it really true? You have to ask yourself through all of those things that you've written down, like really go through that exercise, because people want to jump into something without knowing. And then when they get there, they're like, oh, shoot,
Right.
now I'm stuck. But there's a process with everything. Doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to go all the way around the world, but there is a process, and you can create your own process. But hopefully I'm giving you some type of framework here, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
look at the fears. I am such a nerd analyst, right? So I analyze everything, but I don't go into analysis paralysis, right? To the point where you don't move. So what you want to do, look at your fears, analyze your fears. Where is it coming from? Because when you start to understand where it's coming from, you're in a better place to now move past it or move with it or move through it. And you can identify the lie. It may not come right away, right? Let's say your fear is money, not having enough money. You will give every excuse, every reason, and it will look true to you. I don't have enough money because my mortgage is $2,000 or my rent is $1,800 a month or my da-da-da, but you just bought a new handbag.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you may want to rethink the not having enough money, right?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So really look at your fears. Are they true? And where is it coming from? Right? Number four, let's see, a good one for number four. Create an action plan.
Right.
How do you, someone told me this a long time ago. How do you eat an elephant?
One
One
piece
bite
at
at a
a
time,
time. Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So the problem with us where we get stuck, we see 20 years down the road. I don't want you to
Mm.
look at 20 years down the road. I want you to look at tomorrow. Take the first step and then take the next step. Because
Right.
typically what happens, we paralyze ourselves thinking about everything and how is it going to happen. That you don't have to know how. Know that you want the thing, you know the what. You want to know your why. Why do you want it? What do you want and why? The how will come later. And you have to trust. And this is where trusting in the process, the how will come later. Because typically, when we design our how and we don't see that how coming to, manifesting or coming to fruition, we
Mm-hmm.
stop. When in
True.
all reality, that how could look something totally different and take you where you really need to go, because our minds and our egos are so small, they
Mm.
cannot picture the possibilities that are out there for us.
Oh my God, this is
So
so good.
leave the how alone.
Mhm.
Don't worry about the how. Unattach yourself from the outcome. Completely detach from the outcome.
Yeah.
Take the first step. So your plan, when I say plan, I don't mean planning for, the next year. And, everybody comes out with these planners and yeah, that's great, but it can be overwhelming.
Mm.
So just take the first step. I want to go back to school. I'm going to go and call the registrar and see what I need to do.
Mm.
That's step one. They may tell you, okay, now you need to do this. Now that's the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go do that step. And then here comes somebody else. Oh, that's the next step. You get what I'm saying? You will
Absolutely.
always be led to the right place if in your burning desire, your gut, your heart of hearts, that is your passion and you have this thing in you that will not let it up. If that is what you want, you will be led to it. It may not look like the path that you think you should take. Have faith and take that first step. So plan, action
Mm.
is what I have to say.
Mm.
Sorry, I'm so long-winded.
It's okay. No, this is good. I love the way you dive in deep into these things, so that we understand exactly. Because yeah, I don't want to give people just tips. I want them actionable steps that they can actually think of and do. Absolutely, anyone can implement this, right? Really,
Mhm.
this is so good.
The
Wow.
last one is gonna scare everyone.
Okay. Okay.
Number 5, you have to trust yourself.
This
We
is
don't trust
big.
ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
We think about that decision we made when we were 18 and it was a bad decision.
Mm.
And then we made another decision at 21, which was not a great decision. Then we made another decision at 25, which was not a great decision. And it changed our lives.
Mm.
And we have programmed ourselves into thinking we don't make good decisions. So now we're looking for validation from other people.
Mm.
So your burning want and desire, your passion that is coming up through you, you do not need validation from anybody else.
Mm.
Trust yourself. Don't go asking mom, don't go asking dad, girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, husband, wife, uncle, kids. Don't. Trust yourself. And what I mean by that, now you can help you can help yourself by getting guidance from those who are qualified to
Mm-hmm.
provide guidance.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not getting guidance and getting validation are two totally different things. You have to understand what those are,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a lot of times we already know what we want and what's good for us inside, but we need to hear something external to us to tell us, yeah, go and do it.
Yeah.
You don't need that. So trust yourself. You have to trust yourself, because if you don't trust yourself and believe in yourself, nobody's going to believe in you, because you have to feel it. Like, what is this feeling? What is that thing? What does that feel like for you? Right?
Mm.
So you have to go with that, and you have to trust it.
This is so good. Like this fifth one you gave, trusting yourself, is Even I personally struggled with that. So I would
Mhm.
maybe, before I got started in business, I knew I had a deep calling in my heart because at the end of the day, your soul knows what you want to become.
Mhm.
And the truth is, it's just you, right? Only you know that. Nobody else knows it. Not even your mom or your
Nobody.
dad, your partner. Nobody knows. Just you know
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And then what we do is we go around looking for validation, like you said, oh, can I do this? What's your take if I
Mhm.
do this?
Mhm.
Now, for someone who doesn't know what you carry on the inside, they are not going to be able to tell you if
They can't
that's
say
good for you.
anything.
No, no.
Nothing.
And most times they will give you their own piece of advice based on their fears and what they think.
Yep.
That has got nothing to do with you. Oh my God, this is so good. So you need to trust yourself that the fact that you can think it and it keeps tugging at your heart is actually something that you can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so
One thing
good.
I want to say with that one, as far as trusting yourself and kind of with this whole thing, sometimes you have to move in silence. And this is just like a little bonus. Sometimes you have to move in silence, meaning don't spread your desires, your passion out there for everyone because everyone will not understand.
Mm,
A lot of people will not understand. So sometimes you have to kind of move quietly through these things. But I would definitely say, in doing that, sometimes it may be difficult. Just be very selective with who you talk to, right? So
right,
you want to talk to someone, if you are going to talk to anyone, you're going to want to talk to someone who has the ability, the professional ability to help you get to where you want to get to.
right. So true. Oh my God, this has been so good, Jackie. So good.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
all this nuggets of wisdom that you've blessed us with today. And I just want to find out. I know people definitely will be looking for you right now. Like, where is this woman? Where can I find her? If listeners want to hear more from you, where can they find you?
You can find me on my website, JackieMitchellCC.com. And on my social media handles are Jackie Mitchell CC. And I do have the Bench Talk podcast,
Mhm.
which is on benchtalk.net.
Awesome. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Jackie, for coming on the show, sharing yourself, your expertise, everything you know you've poured out to us today. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you enough. I really enjoyed this conversation and I
It
really,
was an honor. Thank you
yeah.
for having me. Not me on the other side. Sometimes it was a little, I was like, this is different. But yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
yeah.
loved
This is
it.
this
I
is
had
really
fun.
good. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jackie. And I'm sure this will bless someone. This I'm sure there's somebody who needs. I mean, we all carry fear, even if that's the only part to take away.
Right,
I know it
right,
will
right,
help
right.
someone.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Jackie. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. So there you have it. Thank you so much for listening. And for more content like this, follow us on our social media handles. On Facebook, it's at iCandemy, the Facebook page. On Instagram, it's at iCandemy. Or come say hello over on my personal page. On Instagram, it's at Omoshola Speaks. On Facebook, it's Victoria Wallaby. Feel free to reach out, introduce yourself, say hello. I love meeting you. And if you have any stories that you feel will inspire another woman to action, I want to hear from you. I really do. I love hearing from you. Send me an email to hello@icandemy.org. So it's hello@icandemy.org. And if you find this content valuable, please rate and review on iTunes. Leave a review. It matters to us so that people can find it. So like, rate, and review on iTunes, on Google Podcasts, and everywhere you listen to your podcast. Thank you.